from current slide. All right, so does everybody know what an IP address is? Okay. All right. So just for conversation's sake, IP addresses are the computer readable address for a device on the network, right? So whenever we are looking at an IP4 address, which is this is what this is, it has 32 bits, right? So whenever we start talking about binary, that's what we're talking about here. So in binary, 192 equals 1 1 and then 6 zeros, right? 168 equals 1 0 1 0 1 0 0 0, right? So the this probably this is my favorite subject, I guess, for lack of a better description, because the first time I ever looked at a Wireshark capture and I looked at the actual data on the network and I realized that all of that is just transpiring from just ones and zeros, right? So it's either off, on, or high voltage, low voltage, right? So my personal belief is the best way to understand how to subnet, how to understand subnet masks, how to understand IP addresses is to know how to do binary, right? To understand binary. All right, so a couple of things. Number one, a subnet mask is all it does is it tells the computer which part of this address is the network side and which part is the device, right? So if you think of IP version addresses as your street address and city and state and zip code, right? So with a subnet mask, all it does is it tells you it tells the computer which is the street address and which is the city and state. Okay. And the way it does it is anytime from a binary standpoint, anytime it's all ones, then it equals network. Anytime it's a zero for a subnet mask, it tells you that that is the device name. Okay. So now I'm going to go build that chart that I sent you guys the video on. Let me go ahead and open a blank document and we'll go ahead and start creating that, okay? I'm not going to go as in depth immediately like I did with my earlier video. What we'll do is we'll just start from the bottom row, okay? So, and everybody here can do the same exact thing at home on a piece of paper or, create your own document. It's entirely up to you, all right? So we're only going to work one octet at a time, which is 8 binary positions, right? So 8, and then we're going to go down 4, at least for my particular chart, okay? I'll go expand it. Make it a little bit bigger and center it. Okay. All right. So whenever you build this chart, whenever you're sitting in the exam, you just start here, right? So you start with the number 1 and then you double that, right? So you double that to 2 You then double this, which is 4, double that, which is 8, double that, which is 16, 32, 64, 128. Okay, so if we have those numbers from the subnet mask, right? Remember, so this one right here, 192 equals 11000. This is how it works, right? So 11000, right? So anytime there's a 1, you're taking this value, this decimal value, and you're adding it, okay? So in this particular instance, let me go ahead and create one more. 8. Go ahead and stretch it. Do the same thing here. All right, so if we put 1 here, 1 here, what does that add up to? I need somebody to say it out loud for me. Don't be shy.
192.
Thank you. Yep. Right? So 192 is 1100000, right? So 128 plus 64 is 192. All right. So congratulations, we now know binary. Realistically, that's how simple it is, right? So all we do is we just, if so, somebody give me a number, just a random number between 0 and 255.
146.
Okay, so 146. All right, so we got 146. All right, so 146, is this greater than or less than? Okay, so if it is less than, so we start from the left-hand side and we work this way. That's one method, okay? Another way to do it, there's a couple of different ways, right? We could divide this by 2, and any remainder, you just keep dividing by 2, dividing by 2, dividing by 2, and any remainders you mark off as 1, and then you reverse it, right? It seems to me like that's always counterintuitive for me whenever I try to do that. But so let me get my calculator out. Do I have it on another screen somewhere? Is it hiding behind something? There it is. All right. The only reason why I'm using the calculator is because public math, you screw it up every single time. I swear to God, right? Okay, so 146 minus 128. All right, so that leaves us 18. And that's 128 equals what did I say it was? 18? 18. All right. So we put a 1 here. So 18 is greater than or less than, so it's less than, so we put a 0. We put a 0. Oh, 18 is greater than. Okay, so we put a 1 here. All right, so we now subtract that. 18 minus 16 equals 2. All right, so 2 is less than, so 0. Less than 4, 0, equal 1. All right, and then 0. Now let's go back and check our work, okay? go to programmer, and we put in 146. 146. Our output is 1001 0010, right? So 1000 0010. Everybody got it? Okay. Let's do it. Let's do another one. Somebody give me a number.
202.
202. All right. Okay, so obviously this is greater than. All right. So let's go back here. 202 minus 128, 74. All right, so we put the 1 here. 74 is greater than, right? So we subtract that. That's going to be 1 minus 64 equals 10. All right, 10 is less than, so this gets a 0. Less than gets a 0. Oh, okay, so now 10 is greater than, so we subtract it. Minus 8 equals 2. Let's not forget to put the 1 here. 2 is less than, so 0. 2 is equal, so it gets a 1. Now we get a 0, okay? Clear. And let's go check it. 202. All right. 1100, right? 1100. 1, so it's 10, 10. 10, 10. Everybody's following me, right? Okay. So whenever the computer is looking at the IP4 version address, it is actually looking at it from a binary standpoint, right? So it is looking at it through 1 1 6 zeros dot 10 10 1000 all zeros 7 zeros 1, right? So that's how the computer knows what the address is. Now, what does the subnet mask do? Remember, the subnet mask is what is telling the computer which part of these binary numbers are equal to the network and which ones are equal to the host device, okay? So this is where the second row comes in, okay? So just like I showed you in that earlier video, all we do to get the second row, to build the second row, is we just add the numbers going back that way, right? So 128, now it's 128 plus 64, 192, 192 plus 32, or 128 64 32, right? So now we're looking at 224. 224 plus 16, that's 240. 248, 252, 254, 255. And I always stop here and bring up the fact that 255 is the largest number that we have in the IP address range, because even though we are sitting in multiples of 2, of exponents of 2, that's an odd number, right? The reason why it's an odd number is because we actually started counting at 0, right? So if I count to 5 starting from 0, it doesn't come up to 5. I actually, Shania, you haven't seen the video yet, I don't think, but so when I count from a binary standpoint, for lack of a better description, if I count to 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So that's actually 6 places instead of 5, like you would think logically, oh, it's 5 places, right? If there's 256 devices on a network, or rather within inside an octet, then it should end at 256, right? No, it ends at 255 because we start at 0. All right. Is everybody following me so far?
Yeah, because 0 is technically a number.
That is correct, yes.
I was just reading it. I mean, and of course, rare. So while you were going.
All right, so my top row, well, you know what? We'll worry about that in just a minute. So as part of your test, they want you to be able to subdivide a network, right? They want you to subnet a workout, a network. So how do we do that? So using the principles of binary being multiples of 2, we can start to get an idea of how they interact with one another. So let me just go to, I'm going to go here. What's the name of that? IP4 Subnet. I can never remember the Subnet IPv4.com. Okay. All right. So this is a great website to practice on because it will give you just random problems, right? Just give you random problems. And then you can then go behind and check your answers, right? Okay. So we're going to pause here for 1 second. And you see this right here. This is 19. So there is something that's called a CIDR notation, right? So that's classless interdomain routing. So what that is instead of having to write your IP address and then having to write your subnet mask, that CIDR notation, all you do is you just put a slash and that that number right there, right? From 1 to 32 is telling it what is the subnet mask, right? The subnet mask can be summed up in just one number, right? One of 32 numbers. And the way you find that is, all right, so now that we know how binary works, right? So a subnet mask from a binary standpoint, let's just okay. So if we have, all right, so 255 happened because we added all of these numbers in binary, right? So whenever we were trying to figure out a number in binary, we were putting 1 if this number added to another number equaled that number we were searching for, correct? So from a binary standpoint, 255 looks like this, right? It's just all ones, okay? And then from a binary standpoint for a subnet mask, if your subnet mask is 255, it means 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That equals 255. So if our subnet mask in this one right here is 255, 255, 255.0, what does that look like in binary? it looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So everywhere that there is a 0, that is let's see. That's a device on the network, right? Everywhere that there is a 1, it means that that is the network itself, okay? These are horrible colors. There we go. Okay. Is everybody following me so far? So what that basically boils down to is if we take this number right here. So this is our address. Let's go figure out which is the network portion and which is the host portion, okay? So 1100 11 dot 1010 So everywhere there's a 1 in your subnet mask, right? Everywhere there's a 1 is telling you which part of your address is the network. Everywhere there is a 0, that's telling you the host portion. Is everybody following that so far?
Host being the
Device
computer that
Yep.
you're using? Okay.
Yep. You know, the computer, your phone, your tablet, your smart TV, whatever the case may be, right? Now, just to kind of try to do it again. So, all right, so we've got this problem right here, 139, 252, 118, 137, okay? Just for speed purposes, I'm going to use the calculator here, okay? All right, so we got 139, 139. All right, so that was 1,000, 2, 10, 11, dots, 252. Oh, see, 252. Right here, we're going to make our first. I already know what's going to be the number for 252. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Oh, one too many. There we go. 0. And then 118.
So how did you know that it was automatically going to be that combination of binary?
Because remember, whenever we created this row, this is the addition of all the numbers underneath it, right? Which these are this is the binary number row. So I know if I add 128, 64, 32, 16, 8, and 4. In binary, that equals 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, right?
Oh, okay, I see it.
Right?
Yep,
Okay.
I see it.
So as soon as I saw that number 252, I'm like, all right, I already know. I don't have to go to the calculator for that, right? Okay, so
So
our next number was
240. So 240 would be 1111 and then 0000.
correct.
Okay, so the graph is kind of a cheat sheet for like referencing where you're at.
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay, so our next number is 118. Why is it doing it like that?
Well, that ain't right.
No, it's definitely not. Oh, I wonder if I had.
Yeah, I think you had it on hex instead of des.
Yeah. Okay, so that is going to be. All right, so 0, 1, 2, 3. 0, 1, 1, 0. Okay. What was our last number? 137. 37. Okay. So if we know, so our problem right here is calling for a CIDR notation of 19. All right. So it's going to want to know which is the network, right? And then which is the first host. So let's go find that out. So 19, all you do whenever you're seeing a CIDR notation, you just come down here and you put in 19 ones, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dot. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dot. 1, 2, 3. Right? And then all the rest of them are going to be zeros. That's 8. 8 plus 3. All right, so 0. 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay. All right, so using that knowledge, we know that our network is everything from this point, right? Because it's right there. All right, so if we actually go up here and we count 3 ones over, what number does that give us? 1, 2, 3. What number does that give us? It gives us 224. So if you ever come across where you need to know the subnet mask, you know that the subnet mask for this octet is going to be 224. Does everybody see what I just did there?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we're wanting to know for this address, for this particular problem, we wanted to know what is our network, right? So what is our network? It's 255, right? 255, and then what?
224.
224.
Right. So that's going to be our subnet mask. So now that we know, so does anybody remember what these numbers were? Well, probably not, but okay. So let me try to, there we go. Let's put these side by side. Okay, so our network, remember this is our IP address, right? And binary, and this is going to be our CIDR notation slash subnet mask, right? So this, everywhere there's a 1, it means that number and the IP address, that's what it's going to be. Okay, so what is this number right here? This is that first one right here. So 139. All right, so the next number right here, this was that 252. We're choosing 252, right? Because all the ones are all the way across, okay? So 252. Okay, and now we got to the point where what does this equal? So if we add binary, if we use our binary calculator right here, what happens, or what does 011 look like? And just change all these to zeros, right? Because that's all zeros. That's our network or our host devices. So what does that look like in binary? So let me see. 0. Oh. 011. 0. Okay, so using our handy dandy calculator here, what does that equal? Anybody want to tell me?
96.
Okay, so let's go check and see. 96. All right. And then, so the rest of these are 0, right? Rest of these are 0. Hold on. 137. There we go. Everybody see how we did that?
So basically, with that, it just means like in the binary count over and then disregard anything after the point you reach.
Correct.
That's what I was
Okay.
saying. So how can
Okay.
we leave out the rest after the third octet?
Right. Just in this particular instance, right? So it's always fluid, right? It's always fluid. So whenever you're using CIDR notation, just remember the CIDR notation is how many bits are turned into ones for your subnet mask. And then so how those ones correspond to the
Okay.
binary, because you have to convert this to binary, and then this is 19 ones, right? So anywhere that
So,
there is a 1, that's the part that you're going to want to use.
so
That's
if that
the
was 18, the 96 would be 32 instead, and then it would still end in 0.
correct. So that's just the network, right? So
Or 64.
that's just the network, right? So that's just 0, right? So another way we're going to have to solve this problem is the one device. So the network is always the beginning of the IP address range, and then your first host is just one more, right? So if this is 96.0, what is that going to be?
96.1.
Correct. So let's go look at that. 139, 252, 96.1.
It autofilled.
Yeah, sorry. Yes. Okay. Now, how do we get to the next subnet? Because in order for us to reach that, we have to know how many IP addresses are in this range, right? So when I say that, it means like if we go back to our slide, right? If we go back to our slide, there is going to be a range, right? How many hosts are in a network, right? So 254 if it's only one octet wide, right? So this is where things start getting a little interesting, okay? So we have 3 bits, right? So we have 3 bits right here that are part of the network. So that right there, I come up here and I count over 3, right? This is where this third row comes in. I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And honestly, you don't really need this row. I just kind of put it there just to make my life a little bit easier. Because when you start looking at 19, I know 8 plus 8, right? 8 ones, 8 ones, 3 ones, right? That's the 19. I know that it's going to be, all ones, all ones, all ones, right? So whenever you are subnetting a network, you can only count from ones from the left-hand side, right? So if you're subnetting a network, as soon as you hit a 0, it stops, right? So you would never actually see a subnet that goes 0, 1, 1, 0, all zeros, right? No, it's only 1, 1, and then zeros, right? So this 3 extra ones, I come up here, I go 3, I come down to my last row, and that tells me that my IP range is 32 addresses wide, right? So you remember how I said earlier, we start counting at 0, right? So 0 to 31 is 32 addresses, right? And then 32 to 63 is 32 addresses. Now we're going 64. All right, off the top of my head, what is that? 96, I think. 96 minus 1, 95. And then 96 to 127. All right, what was our address range? Okay, so look, now we are in the point where it's 118 for this third octet. Does everybody know why I'm in the third octet?
Because that's like where you cut off
Correct.
with the
The binary, right? Because it's 8 plus 8, 3, right? And so I know that my network is ending somewhere here, and my hosts are starting somewhere here. So this IP address right here, 118, is in between these two. So I stop right there, right? So I know that 127 is the end of that network, and 128 is the beginning of the next, right? So what do? I take this number, 128, and I come here, 139, 252, 128.0 is the beginning of the next subnet, right? Does everybody see what I did there? Okay. Now, the way you find the broadcast and the last host, the easiest way to do it is to find the next subnet, right? So I've just identified the next subnet. I just subtract 1, right? So this number right here becomes 127. So 139, 252, 130, nope, 127. And then what's the last number here?
255
Ooh, who said that?
is me.
Nice, Grant. Nice. Does
Because
everybody know why it was 255?
that's the I mean, I know it has to do with the broadcast, specifically 255 sends it out to all of them.
Is it because the last chunk of binary in this is just all zeros?
It's actually all ones at the end,
Okay.
right? So yes, you are correct, Abigail. It's all because it's all ones. It's when the beginning of the network starts at 0, the end of the network starts at 255, right?
Okay.
So that's
Yeah.
why the next number the next number below this one is 255 minus that one, right? So the last host is always just one less than the broadcast. So what is that going to be? Anybody tell me?
254.
Okay. All right. Everybody following so far?
For the most part.
So I will just let you know that the the best way to get good at subnetting is just through practice. All right? It's just through repetition, through practice. Um, this website, subnetipv4.com, I love the guy for creating it, right? It just creates new problems for you all the time, constantly, and there will come a time, most likely, this happens to everybody, you'll learn subnetting, you won't use it for a while, and then you'll probably forget it, and then you might need to touch up on it again. But I've been doing this for a good little bit now, and I will say that every single, like, all I have to do to remember all I have to do to remember is if I build this chart right here, I just remember to start building this chart right here, starting from the right, and then I add it going back. By the time, if I can remember how to build this chart, by the time I have built it, I, no lie, I have remembered how to use this as a calculator to start looking at how I can use it as a subnet, my own very own subnet calculator. And then some advanced strategies that we'll go over tomorrow is so you remember how I had to count this out? I started going 32, 64, I think it's 96, 128, blah, blah, blah. If you start paying attention, you have to remember that all of these numbers right here are divisible by 2, except for this guy right here, right? So what does that mean? It means that 118, this is probably a bad example, but let's say 139, right? So 139, I automatically know that I can start counting from 128 instead of counting from, like, let's say our subnet mask was 252, right? That means those IP address ranges are only 4 wide. Do you really want to go through and go 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24? I'm already starting to get lost. 28, right? Or would you much rather go, hey, 139, the closest number is 128? I'm going to start counting from 128. 128 plus 4, 132, 136. Oh, look, 136, I'm going to be in that range. That 137 is going to be in that range of 136 to 140. Does everybody follow what I just said there? Okay. All right. It's 11 o'clock, guys. I'm going to leave this up. Hopefully, my computer won't shut down. Maybe it'll autosave. I'll see you guys tomorrow. You have a good night, okay?